Howdy, 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 my name is Nachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we read about the tissue-fusing virus, the meteorological dog, the boomerang, the thunder horn, and the biological disinformation campaign. In this episode, we're going to be going through Home Edition, Death Predicting Man, Bot Flies, Communal Avian Intelligence, and the Earthen Womb. And the Earthen Womb, I hope, has nothing to do with the birth worm, but sounds like it might. So, let's check out Home Edition. I doubt it's talking about Jeopardy! It's safe, though. Any instances of SCP-656 must be kept in a low humidity area for preservation. Any request for testing must be run by Dr. Someone. 656 appears to be a board game labeled blank blank Home Edition, where blank blank is presumably the name of a game show. I was close. No such game show is known to have existed, although the host blank blank is an established personality and a host of a number of other game shows. 656 was purchased from the blank 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 thrift store by Agent Blank while off duty. Contained inside SCP-656 is a recordable VHS tape with blank blank Home Edition written on the label in black marker, and that is 656-1. The box contains nothing else! When one is inserted into a VCR attached to a television, it plays a taped episode of blank blank, which appears to be from the mid-1980s. The recording begins during the theme music, cutting off an unknown amount of time. The show follows a quiz show format where 3 contestants answer trivia questions to win money. All of the contestants are confirmed to be living, although none have records suggesting they competed on a game show. If all viewers remain silent, the recording will proceed as expected. The third player, blank blank, will win with the sum of blank blank, something $1,000. However, if at any point any viewer vocally answers a question before a contestant, the contestant will give the same answer as the viewer. One appears to be able to distinguish between attempts to answer and discussion between viewers. Playing a recording of an answer will not cause the contestant to give the answer specified in the recording. The contestants will give anything as an answer if properly prompted, regardless of whether they could know the answer given or the content of the answer. The contestants, host, and audience will have no visible reaction to profanity, vulgarity, or racial slurs given as an answer. The questions appear to be randomly selected and are different every time. Questions can be about any topic and from any time period, even information from after the apparent recording of the show. The only apparent limitation on the questions is that the answer must be known by at least one person viewing the tape. Answers will occasionally be of a deeply personal nature. Questions have in the past revealed extramarital affairs, illegitimate children, drug addiction, and data expunged. Anything known to any viewer can become a question. Copies of 656 do not share its unique properties. Any copy of 656 will play the recording as it appears when no viewers speak during play. Once a playthrough of 656 has begun, it cannot be paused, rewound, or fast-forwarded. 3 commercial breaks occur during the show, all advertising products known with the correct advertisements. Or advertising known products with correct advertisements. After a commercial break, the camera view sweeps over the audience. Upon closer analysis, the audience consists entirely of people who have viewed the tape, as well as those currently viewing it. In addition to the Foundation personnel known to have viewed the tape, 6 unknown people appear in the audience. At the end of the taping, after the host announced the winner of the 3 contestants, the audience winner is announced, and a member of the audience comes forward and is given a copy of 656. The audience winner always corresponds with the current viewer who answered the most questions correctly. The tape cuts off soon after this point during a disclaimer regarding the awarding of prizes. The disclaimer contains nothing of note. The recording runs for a total of 20 minutes and 3 seconds. There is an additional 5 hours and 40 minutes of blank tape after the disclaimer cuts off. No anomalies have been detected within the blank portion of the tape. Addendum. All winners are to be monitored in the event of a change in conditions. Now it says refer to document 656 blank for a complete list of winners. It is now known that any person who wins the game will receive, after a number of days equal to the number of questions answered, a copy of 656 in the mail. All copies received by Foundation personnel have displayed the address of Site Blank, the only Foundation facility where testing on 656 has occurred, as the return address. All copies received by winners are fully functional. The Foundation is currently in possession of blank additional copies of 656. There's no document though, so I guess we won't get to see how that went. I don't know why my sinuses decided to be super stuffed up right when I started reading. But next up is the Death Predicting Man. He is also safe, and he's a portrait of him taken by a friend prior to securing by the Foundation. He's safe. SCP-657 is to be kept in a 8x8 meter room at Site 19 with a queen-size bed and any other reasonable furnishings as requested. It used to say he is allowed to freely move about the grounds of Site 19 so long as he is accompanied by at least one staff member of at least level 2 security. Now it says, following experiment 657-76, he is no longer allowed to leave his room. He is allowed to he is to be allowed additional leeway with requests for entertainment following this loss of freedom in order to ensure the mental health of 657. 2 staff members of at least level 2 security are to be stationed at his room in order to monitor 657 and ensure that he does not leave. Staff members are to avoid physical contact with him unless it becomes necessary to restrain him or for his own safety. He is to be fed 3 meals a day, provided with a daily multivitamin, and given a supply of medication for the treatment of his arthritis. 657 appears to be a Caucasian male, approximately 55 years of age. He is mostly bald, with a small amount of gray hair remaining. He is 1.75 meters in height, 77 kilograms. Subject prefers to wear 3-button business suits, generally charcoal gray or navy blue in color, as well as bowler hats. All medical tests indicate that 657 is an ordinary human male in his 50s of reasonably good health. 657 prefers to be addressed as Gustav or Mr. Nobel, but will respond to his SCP designation. Gustav displays the ability to predict the time of an individual's death with extreme accuracy. In order to make a prediction, Gustav requires physical contact with the individual. This contact needs not be prolonged or invasive. A handshake is sufficient. The precision of Gustav's predictions seem largely dependent on how imminent the death is. When exposed to disposable dudes scheduled for termination the following day, Gustav was able to accurately predict the time of death down to the minute without access to scheduling information. When exposed to individuals for whom Gustav does not predict death for more than a decade, he is generally unable to provide more than the year of death. Gustav claims to be unable to determine any other information about the cause or circumstances of an individual's death. To date, all of his predictions have proven accurate. For unknown reasons, Gustav claims his abilities simply do not work on a small number of individuals, including Agent Blank, Dr. Blank, and Dr. Blank. Polygraph testing supports these claims. No common link between these individuals has been established beyond their connection with the Foundation. Individuals exposed to Gustav often report finding him disquieting, unpleasant, or simply creepy, regardless of whether or not they are aware of his abilities. Individuals who are aware of his ability to predict death often attribute their discomfort to finding this aspect of him unsettling. Those who are unaware are usually unable to articulate a specific reason for disliking him. Notes on recovery. 657 Gustav was recovered in the city of Blank in the United States. While employed as an undertaker at a large funeral home, Mr. Nobel became engaged in a heated argument with a subordinate with whom he had previous disagreements. While correcting the subordinate's work, Gustav remarked, "What does it fucking matter? You'll be dead before the end of the week," in front of several witnesses. Following the subordinate's death 3 days later, after falling from a roof of his home, he was arrested by the local police department on suspicion of murder. While being apprehended, Gustav made similar remarks predicting the death of one of the police officers involved in his arrest, who was subsequently shot by a suspect in an unrelated incident 2 days later in the evening, as predicted by Gustav. Mr. Nobel came to the attention of the Foundation when the local police made a request for federal resources to investigate any possible connection between Gustav and the officer's shooting. Arrangements were made for 657 to be tried and convicted of the murder of his subordinate and conspiracy to murder the officer who had apprehended him, and sentenced to death. He was extracted into Foundation custody using the same procedures for securing D-Class personnel. Experiment 657-76. Gustav was introduced to Abel as a potential recruit for Mobile Task Force Omega 7. This was a pretense to allow Gustav physical contact with Abel. Upon contact with Abel, Gustav's eyes rolled back into his head and he lost consciousness. He remained in a comatose state for slightly over a week. Upon recovery, Gustav claimed to have no memory of meeting Abel. Polygraph testing indicates these statements to be accurate. Following this incident, containment procedures for Gustav have been amended to ensure that he does not come into contact with any other humanoid SCPs. Further experimentation involving exposing Gustav to humanoid SCPs may take place only with O5 clearance. Okay, so, don't let Gustav touch the biblical SCPs. Got it. Next up is the botflies, which is in quotation marks, and Euclid. What? Is it a fly that's a robot? Because I feel like botflies are an actual thing, and it's being cheeky. Okay, I wish I had not seen that picture. I apologize. I did not know that that's what botflies were. I apologize. Any small instance of 658 measuring no more than 50 centimeters in the largest dimension when not involved in experimentation is to be stored alone with a steel box, preferably kept close via simple low-tech means, such as tying with strings or duct tape or weighing down the lid. Boxes with external mechanical or electronic locks are to be avoided for this purpose. Boxes with mechanisms accessible from the inside must not be used. Larger instances of 658 are to be destroyed as soon as possible. Unless exposure is necessary for safe experimentation, every instance of 658 is to be kept at least 3 meters from all electronic devices, as well as all noticeably complex mechanical machinery. When in doubt as to whether an item belongs to such a category, personnel are to err on the side of caution. The devices affected by 658 when not used for experimentation are to be destroyed. Machinery affected by 658 must not be connected to an electrical outlet for any amount of time. Each instance of 658 is an autonomous robotic device. Size and weight varies widely. Specimens as small as 5 millimeters or as large as blank meters has been observed. Bottom half of each specimen contains 4 spider-like, highly flexible legs and a single eye. Appearance and structure of upper half is different in every 658. They remain active at all times, despite appearing to lack any power source. While behavior varies between instances, when otherwise unoccupied, most tend to explore their surroundings. 658 are capable at running at varying speeds, climbing up even flat vertical walls and swimming. 658 are capable of reproduction, achieved through impregnating other machines. Machine, in this case, is essentially defined as any complex man-made mechanism. This includes items as disparate as wristwatches, typewriters, personal computers, motor vehicles, and, although rarely, other 658. Impregnation is carried out via a poorly understood process that requires only momentary physical contact. As a result of the process, an embryo will appear inside the machine, hereafter referred to as host. The embryo initially appears to be a featureless lump of plastic and metal measuring at 1 millimeter, but develops and grows quickly within its host. As an embryo expands, it connects and incorporates increasingly more of its host's internal mechanisms into its own structure. The embryo partially takes on the task of maintaining the functions of its host, whose users usually fail to notice anything is amiss, and believe that the host machine is working no less effectively than usual. However, visible minor glitches and anomalies, as well as external deformation, tend to appear towards the end of the gestation. The embryo will also break down some of the host machine's internal components, both for the purpose of constructing its own body and for weakening the host's structural integrity in preparation for birth. At the end of the gestation cycle, which takes a varying amount of time depending on the nature of the host, the embryo now develops into a mature 658, exits its host by ripping it apart. The new 658 immediately assumes the behavior typical for other 658 instances. In particular, it is immediately capable of reproduction. Size, form, and behavior of the new 658 depends on the host machine. See below. Mechanical Rich Watch took 18 hours. It measures 1.5 by 1 by 0.5 centimeters. Upper half is occupied by a mass of clock hands jutting out in all directions. Walks ceaselessly in a circle, the radius of which increases with time, currently 1,056 meters. It attempts to climb or damage any obstacles in its path and resists any third party that tries to change its course. Standard issue pistol of security guard. 3 days. It measured 10 by 4 by 5 centimeters. Immediately upon emergence, object fired at researchers entering Dr. L and Dr. B, and fragile objects in the vicinity. It was capable of firing ceaselessly for approximately 1 minute, then it took approximately 2 minutes to replenish its ammunition through unknown means. Destroyed. Computer keyboard, 6 days. It was 31 by 9 by 1 centimeter. It has an assemblage of keys with letters and numbers in it as its upper half. The keys depress themselves rapidly every 30 seconds, spelling out the message, "Ask, we will answer." When any complete sentence is typed on its keys by a third party, it stops and remains immobile for an hour before resuming prior behavior. Action figure depicting the popular character redacted with electronic components. 10 days. Resultant 658 measures 5 by 2 by 2 centimeters. Object's legs appear human-like. Upper half is occupied by an imitation of a bald human head without eyes. It is capable of vocalizations, nearly all of these imitations of things spoken in its vicinity. A color TV. A resultant 658 measures 45 by 45 by 20 centimeters. Upper half occupied by a single color screen which constantly displays shaky, colorless footage of an unmoving human figure suspended in midair within a featureless room tentatively identified as data expunged. An instance of 658, approximately 30 days. Rather than destroying its host, the embryo seems to have fused with it permanently. Resultant combination of 658 has been described as resembling conjoined twins. The objects are capable of impregnating machinery as usual, with 2 embryos implanted instead of 1. Entire public address system was site blank. Unknown. The time and place of original impregnation is unknown. In this incident, the pregnancy displayed capability to spread along electrical wiring somehow. On blank 19 something, instances of 658, 40 by 20 by 50 centimeters, all emerged simultaneously from loudspeakers throughout the site. The objects were typically outfitted with a chaotic array of speakers, broadcasting various arbitrary transmissions at full volume. The song Happy Birthday recurred among the transmissions with unusual frequency. Outbursts of 658 eventually subdued, but at least 4 specimens escaped into the wild. Alright, that brings us up to the communal avian intelligence. Well, isolated specimen of 659 in the wild. I'm not sure what it is I'm looking at, but it's Keter, so I have to do the serious Keter voice. Let me drink some water first, since as I mentioned, I can't really breathe right now. Used to be Euclid, though. All specimens of SCP-659 must be kept at least 25 meters distant from each other. Ideally, specimens should be stored in separate facilities, but research has shown that 25 meters is sufficient to prevent flock behavior. Document 659 blank. Specimens of 659 can be held in containment able to hold an ordinary bird. However, the containment strategy must be changed at least once per week. More frequent changes are permitted if the specimen appears to have discovered an escape method. Previously used containment strategies must not be recycled on the same specimen. In the event of catastrophic containment failure, total facility lockdown must be enacted. And it used to say, due to the likely harmless nature of 659, retrieval of wild specimens is not considered priority. Now it says, for recovery or extermination of all wild 659 is extremely high priority. Formation of a wild flock must be prevented by any means necessary. SCP-659 is a species of bird, resembling a heron, which displays a modular intelligence. Native to North America, only a single flock of 659 is known, although there have been unconfirmed sightings in Europe, documented 659 blank. It used to say 659 is naturally an ichthyovore, and as such prefers wetland habitats, but it can survive wherever open water exists. Now it says it is now known to be able to subsist on any form of meat, although whenever possible it will still consume fish. When an individual specimen is kept isolated from the flock, it is indistinguishable from an ordinary bird. However, when specimens come near each other, each gains the combined intelligence of the group. Even when independent from the group, 659 is still more intelligent than most species of bird. An isolated 659 can solve simple problems, use tools, and learn extremely quickly. When in a group, it is capable of escaping all forms of containment the Foundation is attempted to use. For this reason, the only effective containment strategy is isolation. Research has determined that 659 achieves human-level intelligence and sapience when the flock reaches blank individuals in size. Although the flock is extraordinarily coordinated, it does not display the properties of an aggregate consciousness, or hive mind. Beyond the increase in intelligence, there is no telepathic element to their behavior. Dissent has also been observed. At this level of intelligence, the flock becomes capable of learning human languages, and iteration of the flock have, in the past, learned to converse in English. See interview log 1. Spanish, interview log blank, and French, interview log blank. The flock is capable of even faster learning than an individual, and even a small flock surpasses human learning speed. It used to say it's not known to be hostile, but now it says at this level of intelligence it develops a vigorous hostility to humans. While this behavior was not present when 659 was first encountered in the wild, it has been present in every iteration of the flock since Incident A. Incident A. On blank blank blank, a containment breach at Site blank released a flock of blank specimens of 659, resulting in the death of all on-site personnel with the exception of blank individuals. A full evacuation was mounted, a full report of which can be found in document 659 blank. Summarized, the flock prevented any attempting to leave by pecking holes in the tires of every vehicle on site, severing site phone lines, and sending a detachment to observe the facility from the air. MTF blank blank was dispatched to investigate the sudden communications blackout and eventually establish control with heavy redacted casualties. The observational detachment remains at large. Interview log 1. The following interview was conducted after the Site blank containment breach, Incident A. The flock was not yet separated, thus the Foundation decided to attempt communication. The interviewer is separated from the flock by a pane of bulletproof glass. Dr. S conducted the interview. Hello, I am Dr. S. Can you understand me? A small group of 659 descends on one of their own, killing it. One individual, not one of the small group, hereafter one, pecks its beak into the corpse, covering it with blood. It writes a message on the glass with the blood. Yes. Why did you do this? It begins to write before finding that the blood in its beak has dried. It pecks the corpse again. Don't act like don't know. I don't know. You started this. We started this. What did we do to you? Pauses. All individuals appear to shake their heads. It pecks the corpse. Freedom! After this, it refused to answer any further questions. This is a fantastic example of what I was talking about with one of my friends last week. That the vast majority of the SCPs that are animals that have any sort of intelligence at all don't actually start to hate humans until the Foundation starts messing with them. This is a shining example of that. the fact that they weren't bothering anybody until they started being captured by the Foundation. Because look at them, all they did was be smart. They didn't do anything to anybody, they just were smart birds. And then the Foundation's like, we can't have smart birds out in the wild, let's capture them and keep them away from each other. And then they killed a bunch of you! So yeah, I'm gonna side with SCP-659 and say this is completely your fault, Foundation. Sorry, but not sorry. Anyway, Earthen Womb. It's safe. SCP-660 may be safely stored in a standard locked safe deposit box, provided its mouth remains covered with an insert perspex disc and sealed with affixed tamper-proof strips. It may be checked out for testing and research with the written approval of staff level 3 clearance or higher. Human testing is discontinued. Considering it's called the Earthen Womb, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that they did something that made a human fetus come out and bad things happened. 660 is an irregular earthenware urn roughly 23 centimeters in height and 28 centimeters in diameter, with an opening 20 centimeters in diameter. The composition of 660 is consistent with genetic earthenware clays. The interior is coated with dried mammalian uterine tissue similar to human endometrial lining. DNA testing is inconclusive. It is capable of indefinitely preserving all biological tissue placed within it, regardless of external conditions or the state of the sample, until the tissues are removed. Living tissue will remain viable, and living organisms will remain alive, even when deprived of sustenance for extended periods of time. While the exact mechanism responsible for this is uncertain, isotopic labeling has shown that it involves the exchange of biological matter between the sample and the interior coating. Cell cultures from tissues preserved in 660 retain an abnormally high rate of cell replication. Several samples have tested positive for precancerous markers in smear tests. 661 was a human fetus originally found in 660, most likely having been sealed in the artifact for at least 6,000 years. However, it immediately underwent massive transformation upon removal, additionally developing several blank consistent with anthropogenic blank progression. One is most likely neutralized. Details are available to personnel with clearance level 4 for this SCP. Recovery. 660 was originally recovered from an archaeological dig in blankety blank, where it was found in a purported grave site among a number of other mundane artifacts. A beeswax seal covering the mouth of 660 was dislodged during the excavation process, revealing one. Data expunged, after which the site was secured by the Foundation. The notes of Dr. Blank, presumed deceased, enabled the isolation of 660 from the rest of the artifacts. Log of tests involving human experimentation with 660. Report A. Skin flap harvested from the left thigh of the cadaver of 612. Whoever that is. Donor was healthy in all respects prior to death. Tissue sample left in 660 for 2 months duration. Result: daily biopsies indicate viability of sample. Cell samples taken from the tissue graft are cultured in vitro, revealing a predisposition towards precancerous and cancerous growth. Skin flap harvested from the left thigh of cadaver D612. Disposable 612. It was left for 2 months duration, then grafted onto the torso of a disposable dude with 2nd and 3rd degree burns. The recipient's anomaly testing record had no contraindications with 660. Result: the tissue graft takes without complication, healing according to the usual steps of adherence, serum inhibition, and revascularization. However, as is common with severe burn cases, the compromised skin barrier led to infection and eventual fatal septic shock. Post-mortem biopsy and analysis indicates skin graft would have returned to full histological structure and function had the recipient survived. C. A live member of the house mouse, bulb C strain, acquired for laboratory testing. Use of SCP blank, the consciousness of D614 was implanted into the specimen. 614 was chosen for its demonstrated resistance to the negative effects of prolonged isolation and sensory deprivation. Sample use, left in 660 for 2 months duration. Result: unusually, SCP blank was incapable of restoring 614's consciousness to its original body after removal from 660. A computer interface was developed to facilitate two-way communication with 614. An interview was conducted once 614 was familiarized with this interface. An excerpt is included below. I guess I'll have to take your word for it. And how did that feel? Suffocating and stretching. Could you be more specific? How the hell do you think it felt? Even mice need to grow and move and live. Every part of me was straining, but I was stuck. I thought I would explode. Full contents of the interview are classified. An autopsy revealed precancerous growth throughout the mouse's body. Lab report D. Right arm lost in traumatic amputation just below the elbow. Sample use: D778 was severely injured in an incident involving SCP blank. Lost limb recovered as a part of the cleanup operation. Subject would not have survived immediate reattachment surgery due to other injuries involving severe vascular compromise. Severed extremity preserved in 660 in bid to preserve tissue viability. Result: right arm successfully reattached to previous owner. Subject reports return of sensation in fingers of right hand, contrary to poor prognosis due to severe tissue avulsion and nerve damage sustained in initial injury. Biopsy reveals little to no precancerous cell growth. Transplant ruled a tentative success. 778 has been retained for further observation. Addendum: human testing with 660 is suspended due to the sudden death of 778 from teratoma with malignant transformation. I've seen fetus and fetu before, but never have I had one try to grab my probe during an autopsy. Dr. Grayson: what does that mean? There are two theories of origin concerning fetus and fetu. One theory is that the mass begins as a normal fetus but becomes enveloped inside its twin. The other theory is that the mass is a highly developed teratoma. Fetus and fetu is estimated to occur in 1 in 500,000 live births. I don't really want to search any further than that. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This has been episode 141 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the next episode, we're going to cover Salesman Too Good to Be True, Butler's Handbell, Living Water Filter, The Floor to Nowhere, and The Garbage Man. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you would need to do either one of those things, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later.